There is a moment in Joseph's story that is almost unbearable to read. Scripture says his brothers saw him coming from a distance, and before Joseph even reached them, before he could speak, before he could greet them, they conspired to kill him. Think about that. Joseph had not said a word yet. He had not provoked them in that moment. He had not offended them that day. The decision was already made. This was not a crime of passion. This was premeditated hatred. The anger had been marinating for years. Every birthday gift Joseph received, every time their father's eyes lingered a little longer on the younger son, every time that coat caught the sunlight, resentment had been building in silence. And when Joseph finally appeared on the horizon, the brothers did not start the hatred. They simply acted on what had already been living inside their hearts. So they seized him. They stripped him of the coat, they threw him into a pit, and then Scripture records one of the most chilling details in the entire Bible. They sat down to eat. Imagine that scene. A young man crying out from the darkness of a pit below them, and his own brothers calmly sharing a meal. That moment reveals something powerful about the human heart. When hatred is left unaddressed long enough, empathy begins to die. Emotional numbness sets in. People can begin to harm others without even feeling the weight of their actions. Unhealed trauma has a way of calcifying the heart. But something else happened in that moment that we must not miss. The brothers stripped Joseph of his coat. Now, in the Hebrew understanding, garments were never just clothing. Garments carried identity. To be robed was to be given a role, a position, a destiny. When kings were crowned, they were clothed. When priests were consecrated, they were robed. So when Joseph's brothers removed his coat, they were not simply taking fabric. They were attempting to remove his identity. They were saying, "You are not the favored one. You are not the dreamer. You are not who our father said you were." Then they took that coat, dipped it in blood, and brought it back to Jacob. And here is the question we must ask. Why return the coat at all? Why not destroy it? Why not bury it? Why not leave it in the pit with Joseph? Because the coat was never really about Joseph. The coat was Jacob's declaration, and the blood on the coat was the brothers' reply. It was their silent accusation toward their father, their way of saying, "Here is what your favoritism produced. Here is the cost of loving him the way you did." The scripture says, Jacob mourned for many days and refused to be comforted. He believed his son had been devoured. His grief nearly consumed him. And this is how generational wounds perpetuate themselves. What is done in one generation is answered in the next. The family bleeds. But the story does not end at the pit, because at the very moment Joseph's brothers sat down to eat, a caravan of Midianite merchants passed by. From Joseph's perspective, there was nothing divine about that moment. There was only terror, confusion, and disorientation. The sound of ropes tightening around his wrists, the realization that his own brothers had sold him. Joseph was trafficked. That is the clinical and moral truth of what happened. Human trafficking is not a modern phenomenon. It is an ancient one. And the Bible does not sanitize Joseph's suffering. He was pulled from a pit and sold to strangers traveling toward Egypt for 20 pieces of silver. Yet even in that moment, when Joseph could not see it, God was already moving within the chaos. Because sometimes the place you were forced into becomes the place where God positions you. Sometimes the pit is not the end of your story. It is the doorway into your process. And if you have ever felt betrayed, displaced, or placed into circumstances you did not choose, Joseph's story reminds us of something powerful. God's hand can still be present even when human hands have done harm. If this teaching resonates with you, I invite you to go deeper. In my book, From the Pit to the Process, I explore Joseph's story through biblical insight, trauma-informed understanding, and prophetic perspective to help you recognize how God works through betrayal, displacement, and family wounds to prepare you for purpose. Your pit does not cancel your destiny. Sometimes it is the very place where your process begins. Learn more in From the Pit to the Process, available in my teaching vault at drdelisarogers.com.